Okay, let's get going. First one, docs quick start for Go-based operators, kind equals min cache failed. So Camilla, you have been responding to this.
Yes, actually, the problem is with the layout of the V3 plugin in Golang, when you apply this layout in OCP has a constraint. OCP gives this error because the layout is using the policy, the security policy, and the OCP doesn't want that ID. So in my point of view, the first thing is like create a FAQ on what was something that was downloaded with the information. You know, if you face this issue, just replace the value in the manager YAML file. And the other points would be like check, in my point of view, if we try to follow the OCP error message and put a bigger ID would solve the problem. If yes, we could update upstream to have another number because this doesn't really matter. And check how to use the security context for OpenShift, because if we remove that in Kubernetes clusters, this will face an error that is described in the issue because it requires the ID. So it's like,
So you're saying that we can't do this all the time?
we can put
like this is only for OCP?
Yeah, we can put that you run, but if the users use the policy, you check the security policy, Kubernetes API will raise an error. If you go downstairs, down, and you click on in the Kubernetes document code, case code implementation, my last comment, raised by, you can see the reason for this specific usage to set shows to be because the QoS security polish issue, you know. So this error you will be faced. So I believe that if we have just through came from the original motivation for the change in upstream. Need someone to,
Yeah, so
understand it is deeper and check.
well, it sounds like we should pose this in KubeBuilder as a PR instead of making a FAQ first, and then if it gets rejected for some reason, then maybe we can add it to our
Okay,
FAQ,
but if you will put it through in, if you will put this change in upstream, we come back from for the issue that was raised in upstream. The scenario that she
which
motivates to put the
is,
IG. Yes.
well, aren't they just saying that you only need to, oh, you actually have to replace run as user with run as non-root?
Yeah, but
Is
I believe
there
that the same
a reason that you
scenario.
can't just do that anyway? Like, why do we have to have user ID?
Because if you come back in the issue,
Yeah.
and you click on KS code implementation,
Where's that?
you are very near. In this comment, the first link in the text, a little bit up, yes.
Okay.
So this is a Kubernetes validation, regards security. So we need to check, in my opinion, if it has another way to ensure that it's secured, that it will work
Okay.
for the both scenarios, or why OpenShift raised this error. Could you just like, if you check the error, if you go in the description of this error, you see the message of the OpenShift, and OpenShift is just saying, okay, I want another ID. I want another range of ID. So maybe
Okay.
we can just try to, use another range. If it works, you
Well,
solve as well.
the weird thing is that like OpenShift it's not a strict superset, but it's definitely a superset, or sorry, it's a subset of all the things that Kubernetes can do because it is more restrictive. So anything that works in OpenShift should work in Kubernetes. And that's why I'm a little bit confused as to why we can't use run as non-root, and we have to use this number. So that's why I'm thinking like maybe this is worth making a pull request to actually change this upstream and like get some proper feedback as to why we couldn't do that. Because if we can, then this is solved and we don't have to add a workaround FAQ. And that means that operators will work out of the
Okay.
box with both OCP and vanilla cube.
If we put just true in the Kubernetes cluster, I believe that you face the error, you go in that check, and then the policy will say, okay, for ensure the security of this pod, you
Okay.
need to have an ID.
So
And
while
I
that
agree
might be
with
true.
you. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you that everything that works in Kubernetes should work in OpenShift. Because of this, I
Well,
believe that it requires more a GP check.
so everything that works in OpenShift should work in Kubernetes unless it's like an API that doesn't exist in Kubernetes. But that's not true conversely. The main reason why I want to pose this upstream is because like maybe there's another way that we can actually work around this issue with the disconnect between how OpenShift and Kubernetes security policies work.
Yeah,
So
I would suggest
does that sound good to you?
shows good, but I would suggest before do that. Try, do the setup that raise the error, then do the change and see if
Yeah.
it works in Kubernetes. Just to be sure that we don't come back for the original state.
Right.
And sorry for maybe not
No,
be
thanks.
so
Thanks for
easy
going
to
through all
be
this.
clear to explain that, because it's confused for me as well. Why doesn't it work in the
No,
same way?
you did a great job. There's a lot of information in here that's really useful. Yeah, that's it. Just because this is dependent on upstream stuff and it's not like pressing, I'm going to throw this into the backlog unless anybody has objections. And
Maybe we should
Camilla, do you have time to work on this?
Maybe we should prioritize that, because it's everybody will face that in OpenShift.
Sure. Would you like to tackle this?
If it has nobody to tackle, I can try. I doesn't know if I will have time.
Would anybody else like to take this on?
I can try to help anybody else if he needs other information as well.
Ish, do you have time?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I can take a look at this, although I probably wouldn't get to it from the next a day or two.
That's fine. I'll throw it in the 1.5 milestone and we'll see where we get with it.
Okay, cool.
I'm putting a hold on the PR and linking to your comment, Eric.
Thank you. Okay. Method to identify Kate's distribution the operator is running on. Apply different manifests in that case. Okay. This is interesting. And yeah, I totally agree that there needs to be some sort of library exposed for this. The idea here is you have a library that can use some like smart detection in cluster to figure out what distribution is being run, kind of like uname in Linux systems. So this is definitely a feature request. I think this would be better in the operator lib repo though.
I was going to say, doesn't it make more sense to make this part of OLM? Because like deploying your operator isn't really covered too much in the operator SDK side of things. Like it generates, you know, the scaffolding and such, but like actually deploying your operator, I don't know. Seems to be
I think
kind
this
of
is more in like within your controller, if you have controller specific logic for different clusters.
Oh, sorry, I thought this was when I'm deploying an operator on OpenShift, I want to push more stuff.
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would definitely be an OLM specific thing. But
Yeah.
here it's just within the controller itself.
But it says it's necessary to apply additional Kate's manifests that are specific to this distribution. Is that not deploying more stuff?
No, it's like, for example, let's see, if you are using OpenShift, we will do things different. For example, in our tests, we check if the cluster is the type is a kind cluster, then we use the load image. The load image command doesn't have it for OpenShift. It's specific for the kind because it's kind, Docker image, load, blah, blah, blah. So it's things like that. However, if the person is trying to do something like it, for example, I would like to use the API route, which is specific from the OpenShift. So would it be a better practice instead of just check is running OpenShift, you know, try to check if the schema it's available, because not necessary is because you can be in a cluster running your operator and that API it's common in that kind of cluster, but not necessarily is there, you know. So would it be better you check the schema? For example, when we install the OpenShift, we will have the schemas for operator lifecycle manage, but someone can change the installation. So I cannot consider, you know, that it's always do that. So would it be better I check it has the schema that I need, then I do the logic implementation, you know, to reconcile based on that. Could I clarify? Make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, regardless, this is an SDK issue. And basically, I just am saying here that regardless of what happens, it should probably be reopened in operator lib.
As
Okay.
a point of order, do we triage operator lib issues in this meeting?
We certainly could start doing that. I just don't think we've had very many. Yeah, I think that's reasonable given how closely tied to the SDK it is. Actually, I'll take a look at what open issues exist in Operator Lib after we're done with all these. That's a good idea. Bundle validation fails with CRD not found. Okay, yeah. So I triaged this the other day. So basically what was happening was this person was running bundle validate on their bundle and they were getting a bunch of these like CRD not found errors. Although when you look in the actual bundle, all the CRD manifests are there. So they were obviously very confused. Effectively what was happening was in their CSV, they had duplicate owned custom resource definitions entries. And so the validator was looking for those entries again and not finding them because it had already found them. So this isn't strictly a bug, and it's definitely not a bug in the SDK. It's in the API library. It could probably be fixed with like a warning that you have duplicates in your CSV. And that's more or less what I suggested in the thread, and for this person to open up an issue in the API library.
Do you know if the person opened the issue there? If not, could you just give it his open until, do you know, open the issue and link it? You can assign it.
Yeah.
And I can just open the issue there and, you know, and close it. This one. This one is fast.
Sure. Thank you.
And I really thank you for your help and to identify that it was duplicated. I was trying to check.
I was very confused. I had to do a bunch of debugging, and then I looked at the CSV again and realized that there were a bunch of duplicate values. So no problem. Happy to help. Okay, options used to use operator SDK bundle validate, select optional are confusing.
This one that I make you crazy. But in the end, I think I could list the things that I think we can move forward with this to improve. It's like the docs and the output.
Yeah, so there was one issue, or sorry, one PR that you opened that we merged that I think clarified some things in the bundle validate help. But I also think based on our discussion that there needs to be a documentation change or a documentation addition that basically describes what the labels that you can use are, which are basically name and suite.
This one I'd like to take because
you would? Okay.
Yeah, was based in our discussion. I think it'll be easier. This one.
Cool. Yeah, so it's basically just creating a note on this in the OLM integration documentation, which I think I've linked below. So you know what to do?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, and probably put this in 1.5. Also, I think I forgot to backlog this one. Or yeah, I'll just leave this open because, or not in any milestone because Camilla, you're going to close it anyway. The options for customizing channels and versions of the bundle target are not clear. So I think, I guess what you're saying here is that
this is very a neat thing. I was thinking like because if I was the user, would be hard to me, you know, to understand. I believe it just put scaffold some information in the making file, you know, explain how
so just some comments
to use it. Yeah, I could do that as well and ping you to see if you agree. Nothing a lot of variables just to clarify, usage is to, upgrade something.
Okay.
I've been actually thinking about the makefile a little bit, and since the makefile is used by the user, like maybe we ought to, in the scaffolding, also scaffold like a README for the makefile. Like,
I would prefer a help instead, like making file help, because then it's easier. You can use the help and you have all information like a tool.
yeah.
What do you think?
That's interesting. So it's kind of like create React app will just scaffold the project for you, but it also scaffold a README that tells you what all the scripts do.
Yeah, I would use just the help. I think we have an open issue in the upstream to do that. I think Jesus signed that for himself. He got, to start to scaffold the help in the upstream, if I'm not wrong. Let's see. Let's see if I can find one more.
Okay. Who would like to take this one on?
I can take this one because I open and it's small. I'll be able to do.
Okay. Thank you. And I can also put this in 1.5. Namespace scoped resources with Helm keep annotations are being deleted by garbage collection.
I think the reason this happens is because we put owner references on everything. So Helm doesn't uninstall, but then when the CR gets deleted, we delete everything else associated with that CR. So this is probably like it's unclear to me whether this is a feature request or a bug, but either way, we can probably do something smart where we don't add the finalizer that we have for the CR on resources that have this annotation.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to whether we've explicitly said we support all Helm annotations or not, whether it's a feature request or.
I don't think we've said that explicitly, but if you look back through my comment history on Helm related issues, I'd probably say stuff like, we support what Helm supports.
Yeah. Okay, so, well, we can just leave off the qualifier for that and just say that this should probably be worked on regardless, since people are using it. Can you comment on here and basically say what you just said, that we should probably respect this by not adding owner references?
Yep, I can do that.
Cool. I would imagine that this is fairly straightforward. If you can grok the Helm reconciler. So I might add good first issue here.
I think it is.
Okay. And help wanted. Unless anybody here would like to try their hand. Okay. And I'll put this in the backlog because nobody's assigned to it. Okay, unable to use generate bundle input dir to generate the bundle from a pre-existing bundle. Right, so basically what's happening here is that the input dir is not actually accepting the input manifests from an existing bundle when you pass the existing bundle to the generate command, and using those to regenerate the bundle. It's kind of silly that it doesn't do this. I think when I was writing this command, I just kind of forgot this part because there are two other ways to add manifests to the, or to pass manifests to the SDK when running this command. And I guess I didn't think about like, well, what if you just wanted to use an existing bundle despite this flag existing? So this is a bug and shouldn't be too difficult to do. I can probably work on this for 1.5. Okay, recipe for target manifests failed. Right. I have seen this error before, and as Varsha correctly has responded here, which is basically like this package doesn't exist because this directory doesn't exist. This person seems to have generated a project, written a controller, and not actually added any APIs or something along those lines, because that's what's happening here. This directory doesn't exist. And you can basically reproduce this if you generate an API without a resources flag set. The manifest target will call the controller gen binary, which requires that all the Go code be valid and this package path actually exists. So I think this is just triage needs more information, and Varsha has responded.
I think we need a minor change in our tutorial because everywhere in the tutorial we define a different path and then we ask them to copy the controller from the samples, and in the samples we have been scaffolding from a different path. So I think changing the tutorial would be helpful and would solve issues related to this because most of them are just following the tutorial.
Okay, so the tutorial is not copying things from where people would normally copy them?
Yeah.
Or is the path outdated?
So it's basically we in the tutorial we are defining a different path for the project, and then in the samples we are scaffolding in a different path. So that's why when they are copying the control from the samples, the import path.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay. In that case, this is a documentation issue. Would you like to take this one on? Do you think you can handle this for 1.5?
Yes.
Cool. Can I get pod logs through SDK API? All right. Love these issues where there's one line. So this is, I guess, in my opinion, pretty obvious. Just use client Go because that's what they're asking, or controller runtime. But you can't get logs through controller runtime. So I can respond to this and just close it out.
Sort of related, is there any plans for controller runtime to expose this? It seems like getting logs is a pretty standard thing to want to do.
No, and the reason for that is they want to provide a pretty straightforward way to CRUD Kubernetes resources, but re-implementing the entire feature set of client Go is not within that scope. And I guess the reason here, like why I would think that controller runtime wouldn't, is because get logs is like a pod specific thing, or I guess a deployment if you're using kubectl. but that I don't think they want to like be writing API type specific network APIs.
So the users would have to set up a second client just to get logs.
You can just get the client from the manager. I believe you can get the
client
underlying
go
client
client,
from the
can you?
manager. Oh, you can get the config. So yeah, you would have to set up a separate client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I think that's what, if you ask this question on control runtime, that would be the answer.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll take care of this. Clean up hangs in Operator's Helm tutorial. So we're adding
My
this
guess here
to,
sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Are we adding this to all Helm Operator managed CRs?
Yeah, yeah. So my guess here is that they stopped running the operator before they deleted the CR. And so because there's a finalizer still sitting there and nothing is getting rid of that finalizer, it hangs. But that's expected behavior. We should probably check to see if the tutorial misleads someone into stopping things first. I don't think it does. So it probably just didn't quite follow the instructions from the tutorial.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't know if we document very clearly that this is happening. So this might be at the very least an improvement to the docs that says something specific in the cleanup section. Like we might want to say, you know, if it hangs, well, I don't know. Somewhere we probably want to talk about the fact that this finalizer gets used. You could also put in there the reason for that finalizer is so that we can run Helm uninstall prior to the CR getting deleted.
Cool. Would anybody like to take this documentation issue on? If not, I can do it. Okay.
I can take a look at this. I'm going to be
Yeah.
working on some doc stuff right now. Anyways, I'm writing material for some courses we're making here at IBM. So I'm going to be going through the Helm thing in a hot second anyways.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you think you'll be able to do this by 1/5, which is 10 days from now?
Wait, it's 1/5 10 days from now? I thought we're starting it on Wednesday.
Well, the milestone says it's 10 days from now.
So is it 10 days from now or 3 weeks from Wednesday?
We can have a discussion about that after this, but probably the latter.
Okay, yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Functionality of Helm Operator. Also, As I understand, when you convert a Helm chart using Helm operator, Joe, do you think the tutorial adequately discusses how a Helm operator works under the hood?
The section, so there's a section of the tutorial that basically explains like you can go and change the deployment or something out from under the CR, and then the operator will go and fix it and change it back, which I think explains kind of at an implicit level how it works. I don't think there's anything explicit that says here's exactly what happens. The one I would say basically a straight yes and close this issue to this, except that the wording of, so when this particular K3 resource is down, it can be started again. Like the Helm operator doesn't do that. All it does is basically reconciles what the release says it should be.
Yeah.
But like if the pod is not running, it's not gonna make sure the pod is restarted. That's what Kubernetes does under the hood. So I'd probably say that the Helm operator will constantly reconcile the manifest such that what's deployed is what's in the release, rather than being able to change things under the hood.
Let's see here. Do you know what section that is?
Somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Maybe we don't do that. Maybe that's just in the EDU test that we do it. It's for if we had it, it would be further down.
Yeah, maybe it got removed or something. I think just saying this and then saying there aren't any extra docs, if you would, asking them to contribute them is kind of a lot, but there aren't any docs on the Helm operator itself aside from what's in the tutorial.
I would say maybe leave
maybe
it
the
open.
architecture doc?
Put help wanted, possibly, yeah.
Wonder. This is probably still relevant.
Yeah, for the most part, it will be. Not everything in there is still accurate, but if there's a part about reconciling, honestly, I don't even know if we covered that level of detail in there.
Yeah, I don't think so, actually. Okay. How do you find Operator SDK version compatibility with Kubernetes version? Right, so pretty straightforward question. We've had this one before. I thought that we had encoded this in our README, the response that we usually give, which is the version of the Kubernetes resources, or sorry, dependencies that are used in your project. Though that is what you should look at for compatibility matrices. So for example, Go operators for client Go, look at the Kubernetes cluster compatibility matrix on their README. For Helm and Ansible, it's the same thing. Both of them have compatibility matrices for their respective dependencies. But yeah, it's not in the README, so I figured I will add links to all of those things that I just mentioned in our README. Or at the very least, I will link those things in each of the tutorials, installation steps, and then link to those from the README. So it's probably more maintainable. And I was just going to do this really quickly, so I'll throw it in 1.5. Okay, that's it for Operator SDK. We're going to take a look at Operator Lib after this. Before we move on, any questions? Cool.
Do we want to talk about 1.5?
Yeah, we can quickly go over that. I did have one PR that I wanted to discuss related to process-based things. So let's see, a while back, Jonathan submitted this PR about adding GitHub actions, or adding an action that will restart other actions when you comment, like retest or something like that. So this was a script during some free time that I had. I wrote a program that will do this. I wrote it in Go. It's a little bit more robust than shell scripts, and it's hosted as an action. So you just pull down the Docker image, which is really quick, and then run
So
it.
just for context, this enterprise was started before Travis blew up. So this was more as just a small measure to allow us to cause jobs to rerun. And if we wanted something more robust than this, switching to a Go program that has state would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, and the Go program tries to emulate what Prow would do. So like you can't rerun the tests unless somebody has added the OK to test label and a few other things. But I don't think I could have done it without you researching how to actually use the API to rerun actions, because looking at the API docs, I was like really confused. So thanks for doing that.
I have a question now, actually. I posted,
yeah.
but you haven't responded, so I'm going to ask it again here. Are you 100% certain the token you were talking about can be used to cause actions to be rerun? Because I thought it was explicitly not allowed to do that.
I was able to do it.
Huh. Maybe rerunning actions is different from making new actions happen?
Yeah, I don't know. So this is a test PR that I have open for my what is it? My rerun actions action. And any second now it should re-kick this test. But yeah, it's using the GitHub token that you pass.
No, that's the one that's passed in from the API, not the one.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
I
exactly.
wanted you to make, because we originally thought
Yeah,
we were going to user.
Yeah, so you were assuming that we would have to use somebody as token, but you can pass in the actual like secrets.github token or whatever it's called. That's a great question. I don't know why it's working. If you found that it was documented that it wouldn't work, but yeah, it works. Hooray. So yeah, I have a separate PR open.
Which project is your test PR in? I'm curious if it has anything to do with like the fact that it's a project you already have permission in or anything like that.
So it's
Is not.
it's my own fork. Basically,
Yeah, so
the
I'm
way
wondering
that
like if
GitHub
I opened a
Actions-
PR against, if I opened a PR against your project that had that action in it, would I be able to say retest?
That's a great question. We can try that out after this. Jonathan, if you want to work with me on that and create a PR in my
Theoretically,
repo,
I should just be able to say retest on this issue now.
Well,
Yeah,
you might have
so-
to own the PR.
Yeah. So I think it'll work no matter what, because the way that Actions works is that the Actions GitHub application is installed into your repo to enable Actions. And GitHub applications have an access token that by default has a bunch of permissions, one of which can rerun Actions. So because it's hosted as an app, it has permissions to do whatever. And I don't think it has any like special permissions revocations for like not being able to rerun Actions.
But did you do any sort of user filtering on the comments, or are you just watching all comments for /retest?
I'm doing almost verbatim what you are doing in your scripts
Okay.
with a bunch of
I think
like
around a bit more, and I
filters
think
and
if you
checks.
wanted to do filtering based on org membership, there might be a way to do that, but we'd have to like do a lot of scraping of the API and filter it ourselves.
Yeah, there's some extra things that we can do, but for now this works, and it gates on adding the OK to test label, which I think OpenShift will not add unless you are like a code owner.
Well,
in the
okay,
owners file.
that's good.
Yeah, so at least we have that. So yeah,
Ready?
I'll talk to you about this afterwards, and then we
Okay.
can proceed going forward with this. But yeah, if anybody wants to review the PR that I had and the one that Jonathan has, then I can do that. I have a PR up in the SDK repo.
Well, this one can be closed if we're going to do your thing, right?
Yeah, are you okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Cool.
Where is the Go program going to live?
Currently, it is in my user space in GitHub, but I would like to contribute it to like some operator framework infrastructure repo that we don't have yet, but I was thinking about adding. I think we still need to figure out like what would go in that repo, but that might be a good first candidate.
Test infra.
Yeah, let me get that. It's called Rerun Actions. I've already published it on the App Store. Because why not? Let's see.
I mean, I was thinking of doing this myself because I was looking around for some action that already did this, and there wasn't one. So maybe people would use it.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that one didn't exist. But not every repo has the privileges of using a Prowbot. I did see an app that did provide Prow capabilities through Actions too. So you could just have a full GitHub Actions-based Prow situation without any of the like Prow cluster testing. Anyway, yeah. So this, I will close this PR, Jonathan.
Sure.
Cool. Actually, let me link the. Okay, cool. So yeah, on what was it 1.5 quickly. So this milestone was originally for it's supposed to be due on the 21st. But we haven't had a triage meeting for it or a grooming meeting for it yet. I think we have one this Wednesday. So it should be, just because of the holidays and the New Year, should probably be 3 weeks after that. And I think we discussed this and decided on that before the break. So I'll probably just move this to 3 weeks from the grooming meeting. Does that sound good to everybody? There's a bunch of stuff in here too that I have a feeling we won't get to in the next 10 days.
Sure.
That seems reasonable. What's the date that what are we doing for 1.4?
1.4 is still blocked on controller runtime. I think, yeah, so I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to release 0.80 this week, hopefully today. It was just blocked on one PR as far as I understand. And then as soon as that happens, then we can update our dependencies and cut a new Operator SDK release. There might be an issue with KubeBuilder and upgrading to 0.80, but we have a meeting, KubeBuilder triage meeting on Wednesday as well, so I'm going to bring it up there. So let's see, 3 weeks from this Wednesday is February 3rd. Cool. So we have 5 more minutes. Take a look at operator lib real quick. Okay, there's currently 3 that are open right now. Check the node status when leader re-election. Right, I think I remember this one. So this is discussing the operator libs leader for life leader election implementation, which I think has had some problems in the past. I do actually remember this particular issue being opened up in the Operator SDK repo, and then we told the author to open it up here because that's where we're moving everything. I think there was more in-depth discussion. Anyway, I don't know where the other discussion is, but I think the problem was that this person's suggestion wouldn't actually help in all cases and wouldn't actually improve things.
I'm a little bit, I'm not quite sure how all this would play together, but in the SDK we recently had, I think Camilla added a readiness probe, but that we hadn't added that before because it would conflict with the leader for life, because the node isn't ready for it's not ready until it's the leader, so you couldn't check to see if it's ready before it can become the leader. Is that right, Joe?
Right.
I might be misremembering this.
Yeah, it's been like 1.5 years, I think, since we had this problem, but there was basically like a problem where unless you started the manager, the liveness probes weren't running. And if liveness probes aren't running, then you're not gonna come up. So that's problem number 1. And then the problem number 2 is when you go to do like a rolling upgrade, you can't, because only the old one holds the lock and the new one never says it's live. So that one never takes over and the old one never gets deleted. So you have this deadlock. We need to make sure that reintroducing these liveness probes doesn't reintroduce that same problem, because the control runtime liveness probes were designed around controller runtime's leader election. So controller runtime's leader election works a little bit differently than the operator lib leader election. So we should double check that we're just not reintroducing the same problem.
I have a feeling we are, given what you just said. Was there a bunch of discussion back in the day about just removing operator libs implementation?
Not at that point.
Not really. I think so. There might be. I remember. I think I opened an issue in controller runtime, and it might have gotten closed already by the bot because I don't think it got any attention. But what we really probably want to do is update controller runtimes leader election interfaces such that we can plug operator libs implementation in. And I took I took an hour or two one day looking at and seeing if I could just do that right now, but it doesn't work right now, so you can't do it. And that I think that would solve the problem because if I remember correctly, the liveness probes can be added as runnables that get started prior to leader election. Whereas with our leader election, like you can't like inject it into the middle of the manager's startup. So it basically has to be before. We have to start our leader election before the manager starts up, which means that the liveness checks happen after our leader election, which is, I think, the source of the original problem.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense. Okay. So that's not exactly related to this issue, but I think would still be something we would want to do. Would you mind making an issue in this repo, Joe, to align the interfaces, and maybe one in controller runtime if you think there's something else we need to do there?
I think the first step would be like, let's go back to controller runtime and reopen that issue and get someone to work on that.
Yeah.
And then that might require a few changes to our leader election interface. It might not, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I can type something up. I don't know if we've already released the stuff that Camilla did on the health and readiness checks, but if we haven't, we might want to revert that until there's a plan, and at least until we've verified that that still causes the problem or not.
Okay.
I don't think we've released it yet, so I think we might be in the clear.
Yeah, I think we merged that right after the release was cut.
Yeah, I think the problem that if it's the problem in the Bugzilla, the problem was the fork scaffold with using the master. Then the project scaffold, the manifest would use the endpoint checks, but the image for Ansible and Helm has not the endpoint checks, so would not work. So unless test with image done from master branch as well, you know. The problem actually was because its implementation was not in the release. I hope that I could clarify.
Okay. So we should.
That's the reason for the Bugzilla
changes. Sorry, what was that, Joe?
So just expanding on Camilla's or responding. So the reason for that Bugzilla was because there was a mismatch in the scaffolding tool versus the base image. But
exactly
what I was explaining before is I think, and I could be wrong because it's been a year and a half, but I think reintroducing default liveness and health probes is going to break upgrades because of the whole, starting a new deployment, waiting for the old one to go down, but then having the deadlock on the old one having the lock. So I think we need to revert that. And then in the meantime, we can work on this mechanism of enabling our leader election implementation to be used in the controller runtime manager.
Question. Why this would be a problem for Ansible and Helm and it's not a problem for Go? because it is an implementation in the controller runtime.
It would be a problem for Go if someone used operator lib's implementation in place of, actually,
Because in
one
controller
question to answer
runtime,
is, are we still
we have
using
the-
leader for life in Helm and Ansible, or did we switch over to controller
No.
runtimes leader election?
controller
We're using
runtime,
controller
we have
runtimes.
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. In that case, never mind.
Because this, I don't believe that will be a problem, but yeah, if it's someone would like to check.
Nonetheless, so yeah, you're right. If we're using controller runtimes leader election, then there's no reason to revert. But I would probably argue that operator lib's leader for life leader election is somewhat or mostly useless, or at least can't be used with the liveness probes because of this problem. So regardless, I think we should see if we can work on getting that supported in controller runtime.
Okay, cool. So I think, yeah, so you're gonna handle at least creating those issues. And once again, I don't think that's related to this. I'm gonna leave this one alone just because there hasn't been any follow-up on this. And well, oh, look, somebody actually did respond 13 days ago.
One thing to add here is that this issue specifically states the problem where we are not re-triggering the leader election, and we are having a default timeout when the status is anyway false. So we already had a PR which actually checks the node status and re-triggers the leader election immediately. So considering that, this issue can technically be closed because we already have PR
cool.
and we released it.
Can you link the PR and close this?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are 6 minutes over time. We can probably leave the last two issues in here for next time. Does anybody have any questions, concerns before we end the meeting? Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks, man.
Bye.